viewers. This is Dr. Kimberly Ford, and this is a presentation on using APA rules for your reference list. So, there are very specific rules, and I use the word article, but that's not always the case. You're going to have other mediums or that you use for your reference list rather than just articles. But I wanted to be very clear on when you use italics. There is one key rule that you need to follow. You capitalize the first word after a colon, and all proper nouns. So I've got a presentation here with main rules with examples. So the first is articles from a journal. In APA reference entries, article titles are written in plain text. That means no italics and no quotation marks. The article titles are plain text in its case. That also means follow the rules of capitalization, first word after a colon, and any proper nouns, which we do not have in this. The journal title is italicized, and it is all sentence case. You italicize the volume number, but the issue number is not italicized. Then you have the page numbers. If there's a DOE, you want to include the DOE. ResearchGate has become very popular for students who are using that medium for finding really excellent articles. One thing that you need to be careful of, and notice this one follows the same rules that I showed you in the previous slide, except for the fact that this one doesn't have a DOE, and so therefore we provide the link. I've seen many students indicate that this comes from ResearchGate, but you need to look very carefully at the article. In most cases, the article has been published in a journal, so you need to include that journal name, not ResearchGate. Again, if it doesn't have a DOE, then you would include the link to ResearchGate. Book titles. The book title is italicized. The edition is in parentheses, not italicized. If there is only one edition, then you don't need the edition. Publisher name follows. No location is needed now. So whether it's from the APA or from Pearson or Cengage or any other publisher, you want to include the publisher here. And again, this follows the rules of capitalization. First word after a colon. There are a lot of really great reputable web pages that you can use to conduct research. If there is no author, then you use the organization as the author. The web page is italicized, and then the subpage, which this came from the NIH or NIMH, and it's the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So look carefully when you are pulling information from a web page. You include the full date with these. Unless there's no date, then ND. And then, of course, the URL. The following is the same for web pages with an author, except that you have the title page is in plain text. This came from Medium. Medium is also a really great resource for students. But what you do is you actually put the website name. So from Medium, this came from a section called Human Parts. If there is no section, then we go back to italicizing and then Medium and the link. But this came from a very specific part of Medium. A video example. Your video title is italicized. You put video in brackets, and then, of course, you retrieved it from YouTube and the link to YouTube. Most YouTube videos have a date. So drop it down. It'll say published 2 years ago. Sometimes if you drop down more, you can find the actual date. So make sure that, again, you are looking at all of the info on your resource. A blog post. The blog name is italicized, so this came from Urban Insights, but the title of the blog is not. So that's a little different than when you're pulling from a web page, where the web page title is italicized, but a blog post title is not. A podcast episode. The podcast name is italicized, and I forgot to do that, so my apologies. The title, it says audio podcast episode is in brackets, and then you have the link to that. So again, follow what I wrote here. Podcast name is italicized. The episode is not. So in Radiolab, I should have italicized that. An online news article. You want to not italicize the name of the article, but if it came from whatever newspaper, it is italicized. And again, the date and the author. A TED Talk. TED Talks are popular, so the title is italicized. TED Conferences is the publisher, and we also need to indicate that it's a video. And then, of course, it comes from here. I have seen some folks not use the author's name. So this was from Nisha Anand. I've seen some people put TED Talk here. That's not right. That the TED Talks usually have someone presenting them, so you need to include that author or the speaker. A conference paper. These are also very popular for research. If it comes from a conference but it's not published, you want to italicize the paper title, and then your paper presentation is in brackets, and you want to include where the conference name and where it was located. So not just San Diego, California, but San Diego, California, US. You do that with any country. An encyclopedia entry. I see a lot of students in finance classes use this because they're getting the definitions of certain terms in finances, or even cybersecurity classes. So here's what's interesting about this. We have the author, the entry was Bounded Rationality. The editor was Zalta, so we've put that. Now here's where it's interesting. We do not use sentence. We use sentence case for the encyclopedia itself. So Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. We've got whatever edition it was, and then Stanford, and it was from Plato. So anyway, this concludes this presentation on reference lists. When in doubt, visit the APA.org website. That is the authority on APA examples. I hope you enjoyed this.